Hello, history friends. This is the recording for the American Civil War test. Part 1 is using rhetorical devices. This is Lincoln's second inaugural address. Background info. On March 4th, 1865, only 41 days before his assassination, President Abraham Lincoln took the oath of office for the second time. Lincoln's second inaugural address previewed his plans for healing a once divided nation. Directions. Using the speech below and the corresponding highlight colors, demonstrate your understanding of the rhetorical devices by identifying one example of 3 rhetorical devices that we discussed in class. Then below, explain how that is an example of the rhetorical device. As a reminder, the 3 devices we talked about were ethos, pathos, and logos. You will have a total of 3 sections of the speech highlighted and 3 explanations. Friends, there are 2 versions of the test. This version is only asking you to highlight a total of 3 sections, where the other version of the test is asking you to highlight 2 sections for a total of 6 highlighted, so just double check which version you have. All right, we're going to do ethos in red, pathos in green, and logos in yellow. I'm going to read the speech now. Fellow countrymen, at this second appearing to take the oath of the presidential office, there is less occasion for an extended address than there was at the first. Then a statement somewhat in detail of a course to be pursued seemed fitting and proper. Now, at the expiration of 4 years, during which public declarations have been constantly called forth on every point and phase of the great contest, which still absorbs the attention and engrosses the energy of the nation, little is new could be presented. The progress of our arms, upon which all else chiefly depends, is as well known to the public as to myself, and it is, I trust, reasonably satisfactory and encouraging to all. With high hope for the future, no prediction in regard to it is ventured. On the occasion corresponding to this 4 years ago, all thoughts were anxiously directed to an impending civil war. All dreaded it. All sought to avert it. While the inaugural address was being delivered from this place, devoted altogether to saving the Union, without war insurgent agents were in the city seeking to destroy it without war, seeking to dissolve the Union and divide effects by negotiation. Both parties deprecated war, but one of them would make war, then let the nation survive, and the other would accept war rather than let it perish. And the war came. 1/8 of the whole population were colored slaves, not distributed generally over the Union, but localized in the southern part of it. These slaves constituted a peculiar and powerful interest. All knew that this interest was somehow the cause of the war. To strengthen, perpetuate, and extend this interest was the object for which the insurgents would rend the Union even by war, while the government claimed no right to do more than to restrict the territorial enlargement of it. Neither party expected for the war the magnitude or the duration which it has already attained. Neither anticipated that the cause of the conflict might cease with, or even before the conflict itself should cease. Each looked for an easier triumph and a result less fundamental and astounding. Both read the same Bible and pray to the same God, and each invokes his aid against the other. It may seem strange that any man should dare to ask a just God's assistance in writing their bread from the sweat of another man's face. But let us judge, not that we be not judged. The prayer of both could not be answered. That of neither has been answered fully. The Almighty has his own purposes. Woe unto the world because of offenses, for it must needs be that offenses come, but woe to that man by whom the offense cometh. If we shall suppose that American slavery is one of those offenses which in the providence of God must needs come, but which having continued through his appointed time, he now wills to remove, and that he gives to both North and South this terrible war, as the woe due to those by whom the offense came, shall we discern therein any departure from those divine attributes which the believers in a living God always ascribe to him. Fondly do we hope, fervently do we pray, that this mighty scourge of war may speedily pass away. Yet if God wills that it continue, all the wealth piled by the bondsmen, 250 years of unrequited toil, shall be sunk, and until every drop of blood drawn with the last shall be paid by another, drawn with the sword, as was said 3,000 years ago, so still it must be said, the judgments of the Lord are true and righteous altogether. With malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right as God gives us to see the right, let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds, to care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphan, to do all which may achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace among ourselves and with all nations. Okay, my friends, now is the time where you will go back and highlight, if you haven't done so already, in red, green, and yellow, your examples of ethos, pathos, and logos. And then you're going to explain, this is the important part, explain how what you highlighted is an example of that device. When you're done, you can pause me now if you'd like. We can come back and we'll do part 2. Part 2 is about Fort Sumter. Please answer these in complete sentences. Number 1, where did the Battle of Fort Sumter take place? Was it a Union or a Confederate state? Give lots of detail here if you can. Number 2, why were there Union soldiers trapped in the fort? And number 3, what was the outcome of this conflict? Who shot first, and how did each side feel about what had happened? Again, feel free to pause me, answer those questions, and when you're ready, we'll go on to part 3. Part 3 is photo analysis, photos taken by Matthew Brady. Question number 1 asks, how are photographs different from artwork or paintings? Number 2, how do photographs affect public opinion and support or opposition of war? Number 3, you're going to click on this link, and it's going to open up a series of photos for you. You're going to choose one of these to write about. You have 5 to choose from today. You can choose whichever one you want. You're going to come back to the test and write down which number you've chosen for number 3. Number 4, make 3 observations or inferences about the photo. And then number 5, how would the photo you chose to analyze have impacted people living in the North during the time of the Civil War? Again, feel free to pause me. I'm going to move on to part 4. Part 4 is a cartoon analysis. The directions say, view the political cartoon from Harper's Weekly, April 22nd, 1865. And then let's answer the questions. So first, let's take a look at the image and read the title and the words that are there. It says, a man knows a man. Give me your hand, comrade. We have each lost a leg for the good cause, but thank God we never lost heart. The first question there says, what is the main idea of this political cartoon? Who would agree with this cartoon and why? And who would disagree with this cartoon and why? When you're finished, go back, double check that you've answered all the questions, that you have complete sentences. You want to make sure that you slay the beast here today. If you have questions, you can ask Mr. Bell or myself. Otherwise, you can hit submit on Google Classroom. Thank you, history friends.